right, we'll ring the bell 3 times and take a deep breath with each ring of the bell, in and out on each ring. And as the bell continues to ring, let your breath come normally. Breathe in and out, not trying to speed it up. Slow it down, make it deeper. This is not breath practice, this is practice of paying attention. So we don't meddle with our breath, we just let it come and go and we pay attention to it. So feel your belly rise as you breathe in and fall as you breathe out. Air enters your nostrils. It's cool as it enters your nostrils, and when it leaves, it's warmed by the heat of your lungs. You can feel your lungs expand, and when you filled them, you just pause. And you don't really need to breathe out too much. The breath just leaves your lungs because they've become inflated. And there's a brief pause after the out breath, and then you notice we begin again, breathing in and out. And in the same way that the breath is something very easy to always have at hand, when we need to pay attention. If we were in a dark, soundproofed room, we'd still be able to pay attention to our breath, and we'd be able to pay attention to our bodies. So sometimes we practice with that. The breath is with the whole body, but we also feel the weight of our body in the chair, our feet on the floor, whether our shoulders are tensed up or relaxed. If your head is balanced on your neck, or if you fairly quickly get some pain in your neck because you're holding your head at an odd angle and that heavy brain of ours is pulling on those muscles. And what you'll find often is that if you just notice places where there's pain or tension, with tension it seems to come not always for a reason. It may be the way we're sitting, may be related to something we're thinking or feeling, or it may relate to pain. And the interesting thing is you can feel pain in your foot and find it goes all the way up to your neck and your head, and you're all tensed up because you're trying to fight that pain or wish it away. And you may not be able to change the pain too much, although paying attention to it causes it to be a little less powerful. But what we can always do is deal with what they call the second arrow. The first arrow is that pain that you get, and it's likened to being hit with an arrow. But then the second pain is that tension and stress of feeling it should not be that way. And that's like taking a second arrow, so you double your pain. And you may find too that just giving your attention to those spots that are tensed up, you don't need to will yourself to relax. You're putting some energy into keeping those muscles tensed. And by simply noticing them, you may let go of some of that effort you're putting in to tightening them. And you'll feel sometimes the things that show or prove to you that it's having a difference. Noticing your shoulders are tensed and just being aware of it. And you'll find that you've probably been holding your shoulders up, whether out of anxiety or pain elsewhere. And when you notice it and it holds less sway over you, you feel your shoulders just start to relax, drop down. You let gravity do its thing on you. And I bring up the body because the other thing we were talking about before we began this exercise is how there's still a lot of fear. We live in Minnesota here, and there's ICE and soon to be military brought in up there as the ICE and soldiers drive more chaos. That gives more of an excuse to the government to put more soldiers in place. I've certainly been feeling it. Much of it's taking place just half a mile or a quarter mile from where I lived in Minneapolis for 20 years. And sometimes we ask ourselves that question, what can we do with this fear? It can become all embracing and become overwhelming, so that we're going beyond the thing that's causing the fear to begin to feel that we're afraid of everything. And I think the most basic and best place to start is to notice where you feel that fear in your body. Oftentimes it's in the belly. There's a reason there's the saying about you have butterflies in your stomach because you're nervous or frightened. That's where it appears. Or it may show up in your shoulders. It may show up in how you hold your head. If you're letting your chin drop as though you're protecting yourself. Or you may even want to fold your arms across your chest to protect that vital area. And I always think a big part of it is to protect your heart. Because to see what's going on now, it's not only causing fear, but deep sadness. And that can be just as frightening. We're afraid to open to that feeling of sadness, because that too, we worry it will overcome us. And sometimes the second arrow is anger. When there's that fear, anger at the situation that's causing the fear, or just anger at the world for the fact that we're made to feel afraid. Sometimes that's felt in your neck and throat, oddly enough. I think because we're so well conditioned to feel we shouldn't express that anger. We should be good and nice people. But doing that doesn't get rid of the anger. And we're trying to swallow it, trying to stuff it back down. So one place to begin is just to feel all the places in your body that are affected by these emotions, by the fear, by the anger, the sadness, the feeling you need to protect yourself, and kind of turn down the faucet on these feelings. And if you can look at your thoughts too and notice kind of what they're colored by. Are they colored by the fear? Are they colored by anger? And ask yourself the question, is this something I need to be afraid of at this moment? It's often said that the reaction we human beings have to fear is built into us from the days when we were prehistoric beings living on the African steppes, and we needed that fight or flight response. If we were walking down the path and a tiger suddenly appeared, we needed to move quickly and respond to that fear. But it's said that we then have that reaction to any little kind of fear, that we're afraid we're going to miss the bus. So we're running high levels of cortisol and adrenaline in our bodies. So it's helpful sometimes to take a look at your thoughts and take a look at the situation with a little bit of calmness that you get from pausing. We practice and learn the pause in mindfulness. And you can pause. The feelings of fear and anger, sadness will still be there. You can take a moment to just assess the situation and assess your thoughts. To think, is this something I need to deal with right now? Or you may decide that action is what's called for, and the best way to stop feeling hopeless and powerless is to take some action, whether it's to go to a vigil or a march, talk to friends about how you feel and talk to them about what you think is going on. And we can simply allow those emotions to be. We don't have to try and get rid of them. We can hold them with compassion and respect and know that those emotions too are there for a reason. They sometimes give us messages about what's happening in our bodies or what's happening in our world. They can overreact, which is why it's a good reason to pause and assess what's called for. It might be a strong voice to stand up for someone that you see being harmed or hurt. Or it might be the decision that you'll wait and speak to someone later when you know it's safer to do so. That's another thing we're always balancing, is keeping ourselves safe as well. That's what that fight or flight response is in part about. But I think it's just like that tension, the relation between pain and tension of the two arrows. And we may feel that the first arrow is that sadness, the fear or the anger, and then there's all the other things that go along with it. When we think about what we should be doing, that we perhaps berate ourselves for not being brave enough to ignore the fear or to do something about it. Again, we can just look at it as a messenger or a message from the world and from ourselves about what we need to at least pay a little attention to. And giving your attention to the tension or the feeling is one way really of respecting it, much in the same way that respecting a friend is from listening to them and paying due attention to them as they're speaking. And you respect your fear or your anger by paying attention, by listening to it. And acceptance, in not trying to push it away, in feeling that it's a normal way to feel as a human being, and in feeling that it's perfectly natural to have these feelings, to respect them, to pay attention to them, which again can help so that we're not feeling overwhelmed. So many of these feelings can really lead us to compassion too. When we can see suffering, when we can see anger, when we can see the fear in ourselves, we know that that's not something that's only ours. Many other people feel those emotions, and we can then show them a little compassion, as hopefully we're showing ourselves by not saying we're foolish or stupid for feeling these ways. So that's a way to experiment with how you deal with your fear, opening up to it, accepting it, and not pushing it away, and going to the body to first of all see where the emotions are, which can also be very useful. There may be times when you don't know what's overwhelming you as fear, but if you've learned that fear is a tightness in your belly, when you feel that tightness in your belly the next time, you'll look to see if there's fear present. So we'll be living with this sadness and anger and fear for too long, I think. So you can become friends with it and not give yourself grief over feeling it. We'll take 3 deep breaths. And in this moment you can think, as you breathe in, you're breathing in peace. And as you breathe out, you're breathing out a little of that anger with each ring of the bell.